This is KPRN-DB, broadcasting worldwide from southeast Oklahoma, USA, to parts unknown.
Hey preppers, James Smith here. I've got a new advertiser to tell you about. It is ultimatepreppers.net. There's a couple brothers out of the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area that have this website. It's chock full of everything you need and at a decent price. Let me tell you, they've got a Mayday fanny pack kit for less than $30, a Guide 10 Plus Adventure Kit for solar power, 5-man tent for $89, tomahawks, GPS, go bags, so much more. Take a look at it. Freeze-dried food, supplies, you wouldn't believe it. Now, they also sell guns online, and they also have military surplus items. Now, new items are being added daily. If you order more than $100, items are shipped free. Now, they also do take PayPal, so take a look at it. It's ultimatepreppers.net. That's ultimatepreppers, that's plural, .net.
Don't get caught with your pantry down. Try the most delicious Just Add Water storable food from Go Foods. No GMOs, no preservatives, no trans fats, no hydrogenated oils, and a 25-year shelf life. Enjoy it today and save money. Share it with others and earn money. Store it for the future and invest your money. You can't find better food for less anywhere. Made in the USA and guaranteed 100%. Plus, try it for free and decide for yourself at www.lovegofoods.com. To try it for free, go to www.lovegofoods.com. That's www.lovegofoods.com.
Feeling like there are too many pressures and demands on you? Losing sleep worrying about tests and schoolwork? Eating on the run because your schedule is just too busy? You may be under too much stress, and it may be affecting your mind. Get your mental edge back with Nootropic Mind Power from mindregard.com. Nootropic Mind Power is not a drug, but a natural supplement. Its 12 powerful ingredients are natural and non-GMO, plus it's gluten-free, wheat-free, and formulated by Americans for Americans by an NSF-certified laboratory. Nootropic Mind Power is available at mindregard.com, spelled MINDREGARD.com, and comes with a 100% money-back guarantee. Free your mind with Nootropic Mind Power Cognitive Supplement from mindregard.com. Mindregard. Clearly see tomorrow and yesterday. Today.
Are you storing food? Many preppers are storing food for months and years, but only have enough fuel stored for days or weeks. Stretch your fuel storage by harnessing the power of the sun with a sun oven. Food can be baked, boiled, or steamed at temperatures of 360 to 400 degrees Fahrenheit with the power of the sun. Depending on where you are located, you can use the sun for 50 to 80% of your cooking, allowing you to preserve your fuel storage for rainy days. Sun-baked foods stay moister and have less shrinkage and don't burn. Sun-baked roasts are tastier and more succulent, and sun-baked bread has unparalleled taste and texture. Water can be heated in a sun oven for purification or personal hygiene. For the past 25 years, sun ovens have been proudly made in the U.S. They are durable, have a long life, and come with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. For a discount coupon, email podcast@sunoven.com. That's podcast@sunoven.com. The truth is out there. Knowledge is power. This is the Prepper Podcast Radio Network.
Listening to the Region 10 Report with your host, Susanne Posel from OccupyCorporatism.com, where the alternative media gets their news. This show will expose the elite domination plan, disinfo agents, propaganda, corporate control, and the UN plan to strip the world of its freedom and the U.S. of its Constitution. This is the Region 10 Report with Susanne Posel, bringing you the real truth behind the news.
everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is the Region 10 Report. This is episode number 12. We're getting up there. The Region 10 Report is broadcast on American Freedom Radio from 4 to 5 p.m. Central on AM stations all across the globe. We're everywhere. You can also listen to us on Prepper Podcast Network, UCY.TV, iTunes podcast downloads. Just type in the Region 10 Report, Spreaker.com, Shoutcast, and Blog Talk Radio. You can listen to all of our previous episodes, 1 through 11, on radio.occupycorporatism.com. New articles are posted daily on our website, occupycorporatism.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or you can sign up for our RSS feed to get the latest news from our website, occupycorporatism.com. I'm your host, Susanne Posel. Now, usually my co-host, David Posel, joins me, but today I've kicked him out to invite Dan Johnson from PANDA Unite. He is a wonderful young man who is actually doing what you should be inspired to do. He learned about the NDAA, and he decided to do something about it, not only to change his local structure, but also to change things all across our country. And I'm going to bring Daniel up. Dan, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. So let everybody know what inspired you to start this.
Well, there's a 4 times principle in psychology. I'm sure they call it something else, but I call it the 4 times principle. And it holds that most people cannot say no or cannot ignore an idea 4 times. And I was introduced to the ideas of the liberty movement first by Robert Kiyosaki, who posited the notion that war may not be spreading freedom. War may not be spreading democracy. War may actually be for profit, which stunned me at first, and I didn't believe it, but that was only my first exposure. My second, I was homeschooled, and I really thank my parents for that. I'm very grateful that I was kept out of the government indoctrination centers, as it were. But I was homeschooled, and being homeschooled with no video games and no TV in the house for a while meant there was the library. So I became an avid reader and eventually an avid World War II history buff, reading about the Third Reich and the rise and fall of Imperial Japan and Russia versus Germany and the Winter War and a lot of events surrounding and in World War II, the rises and falls of dictators and tyranny. And that was my second exposure, really, to the concepts of liberty. And my third, interestingly enough, I was walking through my campus, student union, and there was a bunch of guys sitting around a Ron Paul table. Well, I was typically a friendly person, so I walked up and said hi, and I knew I'd heard of the guy. And I was talking to them and told them I was voting for Newt Gingrich, and we talked back and forth and got a discussion going. And that was my third exposure to the principles of liberty. Now, nothing happened for a while, about a month, 2 months or so. And then in late November, I was procrastinating homework. And I had politics set to one of my interests on StumbleUpon, which is a random link checker. And I stumbled across a video on the NDAA called 61 Senators Betrayed You Today. Now, it was a miracle because the video was hosted on current.com, and me being a complete and utter neoconservative, kill all the terrorists person, reading anything from Current was impressive. But I saw that the title of the video, 61 Senators Betrayed You Today, interested me. And I watched that video, and I've never been so shocked in my life.
Is that video still up on YouTube for people to see?
Absolutely not. They pulled it.
Oh.
I remember watching that and just being physically knocked back in my chair. Like, this is happening in America? The Patriot Act.
What did they say in the video that shocked you?
the biggest thing that, I mean, obviously they said indefinite detention, which is wrong, violating the Constitution, I knew was wrong. They got to the point where they connected the 1933 Enabling Acts from Hitler's Germany to the NDAA. And I remember going, they're right. It's the Patriot Act plus the NDAA equals the 1933 Enabling Acts in Hitler's Germany, except that's in German and this is in English.
Well, this is Anglo-Saxon, which is a derivative of German.
Yeah, it's closer than that. And when I looked more into it, and I realized how right they were, just that we are going to be Nazi Germany? Really? With this piece of legislation, we're heading toward tyranny? In America, the land of the free, the home of the brave, the land of the patriotic colors, and nothing's wrong with our country, and love it or get out?
Yes.
Here. I was like, I was so taken aback and so shocked, and I eventually decided, I picked the pieces of my brain up off the floor and placed them back in my head and decided that, okay, maybe they're overhyping it. It is a YouTube video. So I did about a month and a half of research on my own, looking at the legislation, looking at the different opinions on it, and eventually decided that, yeah, every single thing in that video they were saying was absolutely true. And I could not and cannot and will not let my country go down in flames.
Now, tell everyone how old you are.
I am 19 years old and a sophomore at Bowling Green State University.
Folks, I wanted him to say that because there are people in my age range, which is 35, and older, who are out there talking and talking and talking and talking, and nobody is doing anything, including the people who are talking and the people who are listening to the people talking. This young gentleman learned about this, took about a month's worth of research, and decided, not in my country.
Yeah, I mean, I'd studied Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan, and I'd seen the concentration camps in Nazi Germany, and I knew history repeated itself. And I'm not going, and this was actually, we have since redone the website, but when we first put our website up, we actually said on there that the reason that we started the organization, I will not bring a child into the world where there's a man with an MP5 standing outside of his bedroom window. I will never bring children into the world where there's a police state. I will never allow children to grow up in a world that's like Nazi Germany. That is why I went into such fervor against the NDAA, because I knew what happens. History repeats itself. It's not it could never happen here.
So historically speaking, what correlations do you see? What examples can you show or explain to us between what's going on right now, especially what's happened in the last 24 hours with Obama signing 23 executive orders to do what he feels Congress couldn't do, and then giving Congress a list of things that he thinks they could possibly get passed in legislation. But these 23 executive orders are in place in case they don't get their job done, because we know throughout his entire first presidency, he circumvented Congress at every point he possibly could, especially with the NDAA and the executive order, the National Preparedness the National Defense Preparedness Executive Order that he put out that complements the NDAA. Where do you see? Can you give the listeners some examples of what's happening to us? And it's not just Obama; it's Bush too. And those guys are puppets. This was all leading up to this. Where do you see the correlations between what has happened in the past with Hitler, Mao in Russia, Pol Pot, and what's happening to us right now?
While I can't speak to the content of the executive orders because I haven't had time to read them myself, apparently they were signed yesterday, and I haven't gotten the chance to actually look at the content of the executive orders.
Mm-hmm.
Even still, the events since 9/11 I have a picture on my computer that's kind of funny. It has the 7-Eleven logo, and it says 9/11, the 24/7 excuse for everything.
I love that.
And it really is. Now, regardless of whether it was a planned event by a government or planned event by terrorists, that does not matter. What matters is the effects that this event had on ideas of American freedom. Mm-hmm. Now, remember, Hitler, and, I used to be on speech and debate team. The one guy you never brought up was Hitler, because he was the epitome of everything that's wrong with the world. And I believe there's Godwin's law that the first person who mentions Hitler in an online discussion loses. And however, there's such a correlation between Hitler's burning of the Reichstag and the amount of rights it took away from the German people afterward, and 9/11 and the amount of rights they've taken away from the American people afterward. And I'm sure we can go back in history even before Germany and see attacks like this. However, the key is to look at the situations. And in Nazi Germany, they had a Report Your Neighbor campaign. And the idea was...
Not like the See Something, Say Something campaign.
It's exactly what I was going to say. Now, if you had seen a recent policy directive from the Department of Homeland Security, let me read that off to you.
Yes.
There was a recent policy directive. I think it was sent out yesterday. Yes, it was sent out yesterday by Janet Napolitano, head of the Department of Homeland Security.
Gotta love her.
Oh, yeah, totally. Because 30,000 drones are going to be flying over our skies to keep us safe. Remember that. They're definitely not going to be used to enforce, missed parking tickets or anything like that.
No, that's what we have domain awareness for.
Anyway, here is her statement, quote, "In the aftermath of the tragic Newton shooting, the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, together with the Department of Justice, DOJ, and the FBI, have worked to identify measures that could be taken to reduce the risk of mass casualty shootings. In the coming days, DHS will expand and formalize coordination of ongoing efforts intended to prevent future mass casualty shootings, improve preparedness, and to strengthen security and resilience in schools and other potential targets." Cutting the legal crap out of this, they're putting Department of Homeland Security in our schools now. DHS will work with partners at all levels of government to address 5 critical areas intended to reduce the risk of mass casualty shootings in the United States: prevention, protection, response, education, and research/evaluation. DHS will also work with law enforcement to refresh, expand, and prioritize the implementation of nationwide public awareness efforts such as the "If You See Something, Say Something" campaign. This is a critical issue that requires immediate attention, and I look forward to supporting the President and this administration as we move ahead. So, as a note, the Department of Homeland Security is going full bore into turning the See Something, Say Something campaign from a target of ridicule into a perfect citizen aspect of everyday life. Now, going back, go ahead.
That reminds me of when Stalin got into power in Russia after Lenin got everything started for him. And he had everyone convinced, even people who remembered pre-Stalin days, had everyone convinced to the point that when Stalin passed away, people were wondering, where are we going to get our food? Where are we going to get our water? Everybody was just, they were so under the government's thumb that they couldn't even function as an individual. They were a collective. I hate to say this, but like the Borg, they had no individuality left at all. He had pummeled that out of them. And when he passed away, they couldn't figure out what to do. They were running around like chickens with their heads cut off. And this statement that you just read from Janet Napolitano is like the beginning stages of maybe in 20, 30 years from now, people will have forgotten what it was like before the Obama administration.
Yes, People, and not even just before the Obama administration, because although he deserves some of the blame here, a good bit of the blame falls not only on him, but Congress and the Bush administration as well. So I don't think that many of the 1, 2, maybe 5-year-old kindergartners growing up right now will know if we don't take action, if we don't really push against these type of efforts, I don't think that our younger generation coming up, even younger than my generation, is going to know a world pre-9/11. I remember the towers falling. I remember, and yeah, I know. I remember being struck by that. Even I was only, I don't remember how old, I'm not good at math, but I was quite young when the towers fell. And I would have actually been, I would have been 8 years old when the towers fell. And I remember watching the destruction. And I never comprehended then that we would joke about today how people monitor all of our calls, monitor all of our conversations.
Right.
Before 9/11, it was common sense to, when you wanted a private conversation, you picked up the phone. But after 9/11, things changed. And people don't even recognize that. They don't even recognize a world before their phone was tapped. They automatically assume everything on their phone will be looked at and spied on.
Dan, we're going to head off to a break just in a few seconds. And on the other side, I want everyone, please stay seated. This gentleman knows what he's talking about, and we're going to discuss exactly what all of this means for our future. And it's not in the distant future. It's like tomorrow.
Wadiya will remain a dictatorship. Oh, be quiet. Why are you guys so anti-dictators? Imagine if America was a dictatorship. You could let 1% of the people have all the nation's wealth. You could help your rich friends get richer by cutting their taxes and bailing them out when they gamble and lose. You could ignore the needs of the poor for healthcare and education. Your media would appear free, but would secretly be controlled by one person and his family. You could wiretap phones. You could torture foreign prisoners. You could have rigged elections. You could lie about why you go to war. You could fill your prisons with one particular racial group, and no one would complain. You could use the media to scare the people into supporting policies that are against their interests.
Are you tired of going to the same news websites and sharing stories with your friends only to find out later that it was a propaganda piece or something from a disinformation network? Have you been to OccupyCorporatism.com? Occupy Corporatism is one of the very few independent news sources that certifies their information and provides all of the source documents, so you can be sure that what you're reading is the real thing and not just an opinion piece by the controlled alternative and mainstream media. We offer 100% original articles and a troll-free atmosphere, so you can feel comfortable knowing that time you spend with us will be time well spent researching facts and avoiding trolls. Come by Occupy Corporatism 24 hours a day to get the latest news and the facts that other media outlets just refuse to cover. That's OccupyCorporatism.com. You can also visit radio.occupycorporatism.com to listen to all of our episodes of the Region 10 Report with Susanne Posel, the chief editor and investigative journalist of Occupy Corporatism. Don't forget to visit Occupy Corporatism on Facebook to leave your comments, suggest news stories, or leave us a news tip. We appreciate all of our loyal listeners and readers. We've reached over 2 million smart people just like you. So come by OccupyCorporatism.com and get the real truth behind the news. Leave the propaganda behind.
Do you owe the IRS more than $10,000? Well, it happens to the best of us. Just ask Charlie.
I was a pro NFL player, defensive back. Yes, I did get a letter from the IRS.
It's a scary thing, even for a big man like Charlie.
Well, man, man, when you see those dreaded letters, capital IRS, $60,000, man, you almost dropped to your knees. You know, they were trying to levy my accounts, garnish me, real bad situation.
Charlie found out about the law offices of Craig Zimmerman.
I heard their commercial on the radio. I said, well, hey, let me give him a call. It was like talking to my brother, talking to a great friend. I called Craig Zimmerman, and they put a stop to it.
You'll love the way they do business.
Like we say in the NFL, they never dropped the ball. They did a great job for me.
You may be able to significantly reduce your tax debt. Call the law offices of Craig Zimmerman and get your game plan. 800-638-0727.
Craig Zimmerman, they threw a touchdown for me.
Call now and find out how much you can save. 800-638-0727. 800-638-0727.
Fight the last freedom of imagination, or drowning pop culture of the biggest nation with armies of idiots brandishing brand names of one corporation, or conflagration, the most holy train wreck of all human history. Tell me how you feel.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming back with us. This is the Region 10 Report. I have Dan Johnson of PANDA Unite on the show here today. And before we were, while we were talking during the commercial, you reminded me that Janet Napolitano during Katrina came out and said to everybody, hey, think of us as your federal family. I'm just your big sister trying to help you out, steer you the right direction, and maybe give you a juice box and a blanket. Never mind the fact that you have to register your life away. Never mind the fact that I want every piece of your DNA and everything on a biometric card. Don't pay attention to that. Here, look at this. I've got a bag of Cheetos.
Well, I think the argument for that was destroyed so eloquently by someone attempting to make that argument. I go to Bowling Green State University, which I'm going to start calling maybe eventually Communist State University. Our political science department head is a self-professed communist. Two of the teachers are self-professed communists. And the lady I have public administration with, she may not be a self-professed communist, but anybody who uses the term collective good, is pretty much fits into that category. So anyway, she had said, and this kind of contradicts what Janet Napolitano was saying, but it's along the same lines of what she was trying to do. Janet Napolitano is saying, I'm your big sister, we're just a big family, happy, happy day, skip down the yellow brick road, yada, 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 yada. She's saying all of that, yet a realist will look, and this argument was posited by my teacher. She said, well, and you have to think about the common good. You have to think about the collective good. Government can't do what's best for everybody. We can't do what's best for each and every person. So we'll do what's best for the common good. And each person doesn't really know, we think, what's best for them. So we're going to do what's best for the common good. But we're not going to be able to help everybody out. And that right there lies the key. Why government cannot be a family. Why government cannot be a needs provider. Because government doesn't care about you as an individual. Janet Napolitano does not care about a person's individual circumstances, but their family does. That person's mother, that person's father, that person's uncle, aunt, odds are that they care about that person, and they care about the person a heck of a lot more than the government does. The government cares about the whole of society, and they are to provide for the common defense, they are to do specific things for the whole of society, but they're never designed to fill our needs. They're designed to protect our rights. Because government can't fill our needs. They're not a family because they don't care about us. They care about the country. And that's why, even though Janet Napolitano says, I can be your big sister, she can only be your big sister if you and your opinions fit into what she wants and where their focus is. And it won't be the same all the time. There will not be everything you agree with Janet Napolitano, and I don't agree with her pretty much anything.
So with the NDAA, how does their agenda and being imposed on us, how is this all unraveling? As we see, like yesterday, that we're having our rights taken away by, we can't. One of the executive orders that he signed says that there's going to be no new manufacturing of guns here in the United States. So what we got is what we got.
And that's a dangerous step to take for his administration. It depends on where he's attempting to go with this. Now,
Is it important that we look at Barack Obama's upbringing and the people and the books that influenced him?
I was just going to get that. I hate ad hominem attacks because they're usually on the person because you have no facts to back it up or to back up whatever argument you're having with that person. However, it's important to look at the background of that person to figure out where their position is on the issue. Barack Obama's upbringing is a communistic upbringing. And how do you bring about communism? You bring about communism not through slow social change, but through violent revolution. Fascism comes about through slow social change. Communism requires a revolution. Either way sucks for America. But if he's trying to toe the line and tease some of the more radical elements in America, and tease some of the people who are not as careful as they need to be about jumping the gun. I shouldn't call them radical. I should call them not as careful and not as prepared and not as planned out. If he's trying to tease them into inciting violence against the government, so that the government can say, now we have our reason. You see this, you see this, you see this. This is why we need to crack down. This is why we need to have see something, say something. This is why we need to have TSA in your home. This is why we need to have radioactive backscanners going down every street. This is why we need to have drones in the sky, because of these people.
Now let me ask you, let me bring up something. I wrote an article recently about nonviolent resistance. And Gene Sharp wrote a book, From Dictatorship to Democracy, in 1973. And since then, he started the Albert Einstein Institute, which is funded by the Rand Corporation and the Ford Foundation. Some of the board of directors for the Albert Einstein Institute are actually from the Rand Corporation and the Ford Foundation. They're funded by the National Endowment for Democracy, which means that Congress gives them money to put out this nonviolent resistance. And what his book did was 183, I think, ways in which to topple a government. Now, when Serbian radicals got a hold of this, they started implementing it into what we now know as the Arab Springs. When they did what they did in Serbia, the International Republican Institute went over there to speak to the leader of the organization. And it was a leaderless organization, supposedly, until they actually got a hold of the actual leader. And they did a bunch of the things that Occupy Wall Street does and a bunch of the things that we've seen in the Arab Spring movements. But when the IRI got a hold of it and spread it out through the Middle East, what happened was the people rose up, the people toppled their government, and in goes Mohammed Morsi in Egypt. In goes the National Transitional Council, which is a terrorist de facto government when Gaddafi got taken down. They tried this in Iran and the Shah was installed. And since then, recently, as recent as last year, they tried to do this again in Iran because Ahmadinejad was having trouble with the monetary sanctions that the U.S. has been placing on Iran, with the help of IAPAC and the Israeli government. So we have these situations where revolution is co-opted and used for nefarious purposes as far as foreign policy. And here in the United States, everyone is freaking out because are we going to have a civil war here? Is that what it's leaning toward, with Obama likening himself to Lincoln all over the place? Is that what we're talking about?
And he is likening himself to Lincoln, and there's a lot of correlation. There's a lot of danger in our society right now. But the point I want to, since you brought up the Serbians and the rebels in Egypt, the problem that the rebels in Egypt had, and the problem, because they revolted against Morsi. When Morsi tried to put his dictatorial powers in, yes, there were people in the streets. Yes. There were people who actually wanted freedom. They didn't want another dictator. But the issue they had was imagine government as a pyramid. Okay? At the bottom, you have local governments, and you have your on the street public servants. And then just above them, you have some regional, like county governments, things like that. And above them, you have state governments. And above them, you have national government. And above national government, you have the banks or whoever you want to put on top. If you target the head or the top of that pyramid, all a person has to do to rebuild that pyramid is walk up the sides and place a new top on. Not that hard. But if you take a brick at a time, brick by brick, from the bottom of that pyramid, and you have 51% of the bricks removed from the bottom level, the street level bureaucrats, removed from the bottom level of that pyramid, the center of balance and the center of gravity will topple that pyramid. That corruption that has to be fought from the local level and starting at the local level. Otherwise, you'll never topple that pyramid. You'll place a new head on, and all the bottom corruption will leak, will reek, and eventually that head will be corrupt even if they're not already. You cannot focus on the top, even though it's really it's what we want to do. Focus on the leader. Focus on the people at the top.
Right.
The corruption in our society is so pervasive. You have to start at the bottom and work your way to the top. Because imagine if the Egyptians had started at the bottom. If they'd started in the houses. If they'd started in the churches. If they'd started convincing the populace. And not just the populace, but the governors and the whatever they're called in Egypt, the local governing officials. Convincing them that this is what's necessary. When they put Morsi in, if the Egyptian revolution was patient, when they tried to install Morsi, everybody under Morsi would kick him out.
Right.
And when they tried to install somebody else like Morsi, everybody under them would kick him out. And if they tried to install Morsi and 5 people under him, everybody under them would kick him out. Because we can't install one regional governing official in all of Egypt. It's not possible. Because then the people would take them out. So it's a never-ending cycle of win for us. But it takes patience. It takes we can't jump the gun. We can't go, citizens arrest, 4,000 people arrest the president now. No. We can't jump the gun on this. We have to be very patient in rebuilding our country and rebuilding the Constitution, taking it back to the Constitution. Because if we jump the gun, you're right, we'll be co-opted. The Occupy movement was co-opted. The Tea Party movement was co-opted. All these movements were co-opted. Why? Because they didn't start at the ground floor. They went to the leaders. They went to the people in charge. Occupy tried to go after Wall Street, which is worldwide and which is probably at the top of the pyramid. And the Tea Party tried to go at the White House, which is just under that.
Right.
Neither
so it's this giant, unattainable thing, but you're just going to keep coming at it. And what you do with Panda Unite, it reminds me of what Rosa Koire does with Agenda 21. If you just go to your local city council, and I've said this about the gun issue as well, and been trying to get people, I see in the news everywhere, that local sheriffs and local councilmen are putting forth proposals and stamping down and saying, not in my city. You try and do this on the federal level and enact it here, you're going to get run out of town. You know, the sheriff says
Absolutely.
no. Sheriff Denny Payman in Kentucky said no, not in my county. Not in Jackson, Kentucky. You're not doing that here.
Right.
There are other city councilmen here in Oregon, where I live, that have proposed, hey, look, how about instead of banning guns for citizens, why don't we ban the guns in all of the government buildings so the people who are doing this to us can't be armed? And we need to go to these people. If it gets to the House and the Senate, that's wonderful, absolutely, and we should be supporting people like House Representative Steve King, who says no. Representative Steve Stockman, who says, I'm going to put in articles to have him impeached. And other senators who came out today and said the same thing. But on the local level, like what you're saying, get these people at the bottom of the pyramid involved and caring about what's going on in their local community so that they can go to their higher-ups and make them care, and go to their higher-ups and make them care, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. You have to start at the bottom. It's a slow process and people don't like it. We need it now, we need to stop it all now. Start at the bottom. Work your way up, little by little. Start bringing communities around, piece by piece. Because if you focus at the top, if there's enough pressure at the top, what they'll do is what they've done before. They'll calm the restless natives.
Right.
They won't actually introduce anything real. They won't actually push anything worth mentioning or any type of real change. They'll try to calm the restless natives, and that's why we need to focus at the local level, where they actually care about their constituents and where we can affect the most change.
All right, Dan, we're going to come up on a break here, and on the other side, I want you to tell everybody how they can finally get up off their lazy butt and go do something. All right, guys, don't go away.
This week's featured artist is Taylor Ferreira. She actually has a very extensive YouTube collection of videos, very well outspoken young lady from New York. Go ahead and check this out. Go to her website, taylorferreira.net.
If only Lincoln had a gun with him, could have shot Booth between the eyes, blown the smoke away from the rim, said a one-liner and bowed, a standing ovation from a crowd. Just think how fucking cool that would have been. Ooh. If only Gandhi had a Smith & Wesson, said screw passive resistance and taught his enemies a lesson. Could have inspired fear and dread, and his assassins would have fled. Just think of all the things that could be undone if only everyone had a gun. I'm talking everyone from the smallest child to the oldest and most senile. Now that's a recipe for a safer nation. Jesse James and Wild Bill would be pretty old, but living still if they just heeded the NRA's recommendation. If only Hemingway had another gun, could have saved himself by shooting the hand that held the other one. And Oswald wouldn't have been harmed if he'd simply remained darned. Can't we just give guns a shot, pardon the pun? If John Lennon had a Derringer, think what could have been. Could have shot Chapman in the torso, waited for gangrene to set in. And his advice to all his fans would be give abuse a chance. Imagine all the people living as one, if only everyone had a gun. I'm talking everyone from the smallest child to the oldest and most senile. Now that's a recipe for a safer nation. Jesse James and Wild Bill will be pretty old, but living still if they just heeded the NRA's recommendation. All the problems of the world can be solved by a gun. If your gun itself no problems, boy, you just need a bigger one. Guns can help an awful lot, just the wrong people keep getting shot. But they're incredibly safe and not to mention fun. Ooh. Just think if Jesus Christ had had a gun, he could have shot the Pharisees till they believed he was God's only son. No need for him to have died if God had a gun on his right-hand side. It's the only savior the NRA won. repeater guns.
Do you owe the IRS more than $10,000? Well, it happens to the best of us. Just ask Charlie.
I was a pro NFL player, defensive back. Yes, I did get a letter from the IRS.
It's a scary thing, even for a big man like Charlie.
Well, man, when you see those dreaded letters, capital IRS, $60,000, man, you almost drop to your knees. You know, they were trying to levy my accounts, garnish me, real bad situation.
Charlie found out about the law offices of Craig Zimmerman.
I heard their commercial on the radio. I said, well, hey, let me give them a call. It was like talking to my brother, talking to a great friend. I called Craig Zimmerman, and they put a stop to it.
You'll love the way they do business.
Like we say in the NFL, they never dropped the ball. They did a great job for me.
You may be able to significantly reduce your tax debt. Call the law offices of Craig Zimmerman and get your game plan. 800-638-0727.
Craig Zimmerman, they threw a touchdown for me.
Call now and find out how much you can save. 800-638-0727. 800-638-0727.
Are you tired of going to the same news websites and sharing stories with your friends only to find out later that it was a propaganda piece or something from a disinformation network? Have you been to OccupyCorporatism.com? Occupy Corporatism is one of the very few independent news sources that certifies their information and provides all of the source documents, so you can be sure that what you're reading is the real thing, and not just an opinion piece by the controlled alternative and mainstream media. We offer 100% original articles and a troll-free atmosphere, so you can feel comfortable knowing that time you spend with us will be time well spent researching facts and avoiding trolls. Come by Occupy Corporatism 24 hours a day to get the latest news and the facts that other media outlets just refuse to cover. That's OccupyCorporatism.com. You can also visit radio.occupycorporatism.com to listen to all of our episodes of the Region 10 Report with Susanne Posel, the chief editor and investigative journalist of Occupy Corporatism. Don't forget to visit Occupy Corporatism on Facebook to leave your comments, suggest news stories, or leave us a news tip. We appreciate all of our loyal listeners and readers. We've reached over 2 million smart people just like you. So come by OccupyCorporatism.com and get the real truth behind the news. And leave the propaganda behind.
Fight the last freedom of imagination, or drowning pop culture of the biggest nation with armies of idiots brandishing brand names of one corporation, or conflagration, the most holy train wreck of all human history. Tell me how you feel.
Hello, everybody. We are in the home stretch of the Region 10 Report, and I am joined by Dan Johnson of PANDA Unite. I have a caller on hold, so I'm going to go ahead and take that caller. Roy, how are you? Roy, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
How are you? Thank you for calling.
Hey, Miss Posel. Oh, your guest is awesome.
Isn't he?
Oh, our country's looking better with a young group like him.
Absolutely.
Actually, I reason I called Miss Posel is my internet went down and I didn't want to miss his problem reaction solution. So if you could put me back on hold,
definitely.
I would really like to hear what he thinks we need to do to take the country back.
Absolutely. We're going to get to that. Thank you for calling, Roy. I'll put you back on hold.
Okay.
All right. So we're all ready. Tell us what we can do. Tell us about PANDA Unite.
All right. Well, I didn't create the problem, so I guess you can't really call it my problem reaction solution. But I did have I did have a reaction, and I do have a solution. My reaction, I've already shared quite a bit. It's this country's not going to go down in flames, that I'm going to be standing in the way if no one else will be. And I have a great, great team who has been standing in the way with me. We have around 20 people in different disciplines with different expertise that helps us on the national level as volunteers. And we have 90 chapters nationwide. We're creating state teams right now to lobby at the state legislator level. In order to understand what we need to do, I need to quickly explain Operation Homeland Liberty. I dislike the Department of Homeland Security as much as the next guy. And I think that it's ironic that the Department of Homeland Security does nothing to actually secure the homeland. And also I find it kind of interesting that the word homeland was used by Stalin as well. So as kind of a slap in the face to the Department of Homeland Security, who is probably tapping my phone at this very moment. Hello, NSA agents. Welcome to the broadcast. Thank you for listening in. Hope you learned something. This is the Liberty Movement. Anyway, continuing on. The Department of Homeland Security, we, in response to that and their support of NDAA and the National Defense Authorization Act's indefinite detention, we launched Operation Homeland Liberty. And Operation Homeland Liberty is the goal to stop the NDAA in all 50 states in 365 days. It is a crucial goal that we achieve. And we launched it for two reasons. Number one, we now have the network and support necessary to stop the NDAA. Yourself, the Pete Santilli Show, I'll be going on the Vinnie Eastwood Show, also on American Freedom Radio. In fact, American Freedom Radio has been our radio station of choice pretty recently. And news organizations from Western Journalism to WorldNet Daily to Occupy Corporatism to Huffington Post to all of these different news organizations working with us, or at least allowing us to publish information on NDAA. And we have the widest anti-NDAA network. And secondly, the NDAA lawsuit is going to the Supreme Court. Hedges v. Obama is headed to the Supreme Court. No, it's not there yet. Yes, it's in appeals court. No, neither side will give up until it ends up in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will rule the NDAA constitutional in the interest of national security. I've been saying that for months. I'll say it again. Supreme Court will declare the NDAA constitutional for national security reasons.
And when you say that to people, they freak out. So, as everybody is up on the ceiling like a cat, oh my God, what do we do? What do we do?
Yeah. So anyway, it's going to land in the Supreme Court by early 2014. We're guessing. If not it's going to land in their radar. And we are going to stop the NDAA in all 50 states by the end of this year. State legislatures, they're all open this year. Every single state, as far as I know. So, no matter what state any of your listeners are in, no matter what state anyone in American Freedom Radio is in, we are setting up state lobbying teams in your area. We have legislation drafted at the state level that will stop the NDAA, that would declare it unconstitutional in that state. It's already been passed in Virginia. We have bills introduced in several states, and we're also working with several states. And just to give your listeners an idea of some of the real changes that are happening that mainstream media doesn't pick up, that really no one talks about, is victories. And you must talk about victories. You must talk about where we're winning, because we're winning in so many places. And I want to give you a quick list of where we're winning, and then I'll tell people how to join up with us. We have legislation between us and our partners introduced in Michigan, Indiana, Missouri, Texas, Wyoming, Oklahoma, Nevada, Washington, North and South Carolina. We are working currently at the state level to push legislation in Wisconsin, Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, Georgia, Kansas, Arizona, and Montana. That is almost half the country.
That is phenomenal.
Yes, we're very, very excited about that. And most of the states that I mentioned we're pushing it in, we have legislation being drafted by a representative at the moment. If you are in any of those states, or even if you're not in any of those states, we are setting up state lobbying teams in your area. We don't have much time to stop the NDAA, but we have the best chance this year. We took off. Now, those states I mentioned, most of those have begun to take action in the past 4 or 5 weeks. That's how quickly this is taking off this year. So if you want to join a state lobbying team, if there's a state that I didn't mention, we probably don't have a state lobbying team where you're at. If you want to start a state lobbying team, anything that you can do to help us fight the NDAA, we're more than willing to work with you. If you're IT professional, if you're good at secretarial work, etc. PandaUnite.org. PandaUnite.org. Go to the Join Us link, put in your information, including your phone number. We'll give you a call. Please respond to that call as soon as possible if you're not home or when we talk to you. We'll integrate you into the local state lobbying team, and we'll work on your state legislators. And we will stop the NDAA in all 50 states in 365 days. By the end of this year, all 50 states will stop the NDAA. If the state level bills don't go through, we'll work on the county level and we'll get every county in your state by the end of the year. That is our goal. We are singularly focused on that. We are only NDAA organization. We might touch on other issues, but we are specifically focused on reversing the application of the law of war and military force up to and including execution of American citizens and restoring constitutional governance to the United States of America, starting with repealing the NDAA and moving on to everything else. This is Operation Homeland Liberty. 50 states, 365 days. Join us at PandaUnite.org, PandaUnite.org, and thanks so much for having me on, Suzanne.
Well, we're not done yet.
Well,
this is why I had you on the show, because when I spoke to you on the phone, we talked for, I think, almost 2 hours, and I could have talked to you forever. I mean, you know so much about not only what's going on right now, but how it applies to what's happened. And if we look back and see how these, dictators got into power, it seems when we read the books that it happened overnight, but it was a long, slow process. Or the Bolshevik Revolution was fairly quick. But by the time Stalin got into power, Lenin had laid down all the framework, built him this nice palace, proverbially, and said, here, you take over, and died. And then Stalin had everything he needed to just completely take an entire country and make them useless without him around. And this is what we're seeing here.
Yes, and not to cut you off there, but I want to wrap up with a few reasons why we as a country are in the best position. I'm assuming we got 7 minutes or so?
We have like a minute.
Oh, okay. Well, the reason our country is in the best position is because for the first time in history, we have instantaneous communication. We have the internet. We know what our government is doing. For the first time in history, we understand what our government is doing. There's a resistance started before violence. No other country in the world that has faced the type of things we're facing has run into this. And that's why we have the biggest chance in America of winning. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. We will have a peaceful, non-violent. We have a resistance. We'll have a peaceful, non-violent revolution toward constitutional governance in the United States of America. And I hope everyone on board is joining us.
Absolutely. Everybody, PandaUnite.org. Dan Johnson, thank you so much for coming on my show. And like I told you on the break, I definitely want you to come back on. Anytime that you have an update or anything, just give me a call. And I'd like you to come on again to help maybe reiterate some of these points and explain to people why this is so important. People, get up off your butt, go to his website, get involved. Let's do something about this. We don't have to be victims. We don't have to let this happen. We have a constitution. Let's remember that. Let's enact it. and let's act like the free citizens that our founding fathers fought so that we could be. Thank you, everyone, for coming along with us, and thank you for listening. And you have been listening to the Region 10 Report. I am here on American Freedom Radio, 4 to 5 Central. I'm also on the Pete Santilli Show, 6 days a week.
This is KPRN-DB, broadcasting worldwide from southeast Oklahoma, USA, to parts unknown.
Hey preppers, James Smith here. I've got a new advertiser to tell you about. It is ultimatepreppers.net. There's a couple brothers out of the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area that have this website. It's chock full of everything you need and at a decent price. Let me tell you, they've got a Mayday fanny pack kit for less than $30, a Guide 10 Plus Adventure Kit for solar power, 5-man tent for $89, tomahawks, GPS, go bags, so much more. Take a look at it. Freeze-dried food, supplies, you wouldn't believe it. Now, they also sell guns online, and they also have military surplus items. Now, new items are being added daily. If you order more than $100, items are shipped free. Now, they also do take PayPal, so take a look at it. It's ultimatepreppers.net. That's ultimatepreppers, that's plural, .net.
Are you sick and tired of having your First Amendment harassed or censored on Facebook? Use no more, as we now have a new alternative to Facebook. It's called Awareness Act. Awareness Act is a social network designed for patriots, to be used by patriots, and is ran by patriots. Stand up and help in the fight to protect your constitutional rights. Patriots can create pages, blogs, videos, documents, articles, and so much more. We even have a unique news feed system that allows you to share, read, or connect with any patriot on Awareness Act. We are a dedicated tool for patriots to use against the tyranny our Constitution is facing. So if you're tired of having your rights infringed upon, come check us out at www.awarenessact.com. Again, that is www.awarenessact.com, the social network for patriots, not potatoes.
Whether you take me for the fool, I know that I can be. Whether you see me eye to eye.
Don't get caught with your pantry down. Try the most delicious Just Add Water storable food from Go Foods. No GMOs, no preservatives, no trans fats, no hydrogenated oils, and a 25-year shelf life. Enjoy it today and save money. Share it with others and earn money. Store it for the future and invest your money. You can't find better food for less anywhere. Made in the USA and guaranteed 100%. Plus, try it for free and decide for yourself at www.lovegofoods.com. To try it for free, go to www.lovegofoods.com. That's www.lovegofoods.com.
The truth is out there. Knowledge is power. This is the Prepper Podcast Radio Network.